He kept calling himself lazy, but the word never fixed anything. It only made him smaller. It made every unfinished task feel like proof that something was wrong with him. He wasn't proud of the way he lived. Half-done plans, open tabs, unread messages, skipped workouts, postponed goals. He looked busy all day, yet nothing important moved forward. The worst part was the guilt. Not loud guilt, quiet guilt. The kind that sits in the background like a low humming noise, draining energy before you even start. This is the story of Alex, a man who didn't lack ambition. He lacked bandwidth. His mind wasn't lazy. His mind was overloaded. Alex woke up tired even after sleeping. Not because his body was weak, but because his brain never truly rested. It kept running lists, worries, deadlines, and regrets like a loop. Before he even got out of bed, he remembered 5 problems: money, work, family, health, the future. His mind stacked them instantly, like it was preparing to fight all day. Then he picked up his phone. 1 notification became 10. 10 became a scroll. And the moment he scrolled, his brain got louder and quieter at the same time. Louder, because more input means more decisions. Quieter, because scrolling numbs thinking. It felt like relief, but it wasn't rest. It was avoidance disguised as recovery. By the time he started his day, he already felt behind. Not behind on work only, behind on life. Behind on becoming the person he promised himself he would be. He told himself, "I'm just lazy," because that explanation was simple. Overload is complex. Overload requires you to manage systems, boundaries, choices. Lazy lets you blame your character and quit. Alex tried to push harder, like everyone says. He made aggressive to-do lists and set alarms like a soldier. But every time he tried, his mind resisted like a tired engine. The lists didn't motivate him. They overwhelmed him. Too many items, too many priorities, too many promises. Each unchecked box became a small insult. He would sit down to work, open his laptop, and freeze. Not because he didn't care, but because his brain couldn't choose where to begin without feeling like he chose wrong. That's what overload does. It turns starting into a threat. Because starting means deciding, and deciding means risking regret. So the mind delays, not out of laziness, but out of protection. Alex didn't understand that. He thought resistance meant weakness. He didn't realize resistance can be a signal that the system is broken, not the person. One afternoon, he stared at a simple task for an hour. A single email. Nothing difficult. Nothing technical. Just words. Yet it felt like lifting a car. Then he did the thing that always helped. He opened a video. Then another. Then short clips. Then social media. He told himself he was taking a break. But when he came back, he felt worse. More shame, less energy, more noise. The break didn't restore him. It fragmented him. He was tired in pieces. That night, he told himself the same lie. Tomorrow I'll be different. Tomorrow became the place where his mind was calm, his life was clean, and his focus finally returned. But tomorrow arrived with the same mind, the same phone, the same triggers, the same clutter. And the story repeated, because he was fighting overload with willpower. One evening, Alex sat at a table with a friend who seemed calm in a way Alex couldn't explain. The friend wasn't rich. He wasn't free of problems. He was just clear. Alex said, "I think I'm lazy." He expected agreement or advice. Instead, his friend asked, "How many things are you carrying in your head right now?" Alex laughed, then stopped laughing, because the number was embarrassing. Work tasks, bills, health stuff, family concerns, goals, unfinished projects, social obligations. Everything felt urgent. His friend said, "That's not laziness. That's overload." Then he added a sentence Alex didn't expect. "A drowning mind looks like a lazy body." Alex felt exposed. Because it was true. He didn't want to be on the couch. He just didn't know how to move with that much mental weight. His friend explained it simply. Your brain has a limited number of clean decisions per day. Every notification spends one. Every open loop spends one. Eventually, you hit zero. At zero, he said, your brain chooses the fastest relief, not the best action. Relief is scrolling, snacking, sleeping, avoiding. It's not moral failure. It's a default setting. Alex asked, so what do I do? His friend didn't say, try harder. He said, reduce load, create clarity. Then action becomes easy again. That night, Alex went home and looked at his life like a system, not a personality test. He didn't ask, what's wrong with me? He asked, what's too heavy? He noticed the first problem. Too many inputs. Notifications, news, messages, content, opinions. His brain was consuming more than it could digest, like eating all day and calling it nutrition. A second problem was open loops. Unfinished tasks, vague goals, unclear priorities. Every open loop sits in your mind like a background app draining battery. The third problem was friction. He tried to do important work in environments designed for distraction. Phone on the desk. Tabs everywhere. Noise, no boundaries. Then he blamed himself. Alex wrote a simple truth in his notebook. My mind is not lazy. My mind is overloaded. Seeing it on paper felt like a small release of shame. Then he built a practical tool. He named it the Overload Reset. Not a long routine, not a perfect morning, just a short process to regain control. Step 1 was brutal, close inputs. He turned off non-essential notifications, not forever, just for 7 days. He wanted to feel the difference between silence and constant pinging. Step 2 was externalize. He opened a page and dumped everything in his head. Every task, worry, idea, obligation, not organized, just out of his brain and onto paper. Step 3 was choose one lane. He circled only 3 items for tomorrow, not 10, not 15, 3, because clarity is not having many options. Clarity is reducing options. Step 4 was define the first action, not work on project. Too big. The first action had to be physical and obvious. Open the document and write the title. Pay this bill. Walk for 10 minutes. Step 5 was a time box. He scheduled one focused block, just 20 minutes. He didn't trust himself with a full day. He trusted himself with a small win. The next morning, Alex woke up and still felt normal. Not inspired, not energetic. But he had something he rarely had. A map, 3 priorities. One first action, one time block. He sat down at his desk and noticed the urge to check his phone. It wasn't strong. It was automatic. Like a reflex his brain used whenever it sensed discomfort. He didn't fight the urge with emotion. He used a rule. Phone in another room for 20 minutes. Not heroic, mechanical. The goal was to reduce load, not prove willpower. He started the first action, and something strange happened. The task wasn't magically fun, but it wasn't heavy. The heaviness had come from the chaos before the work. After 20 minutes, he stopped on purpose. That mattered. Because the overloaded mind doesn't trust endless tasks. It needs boundaries. A clear start and a clear stop. Alex wrote a single line. I started. That line felt small, but it was proof. Proof that he wasn't lazy. Proof that when load drops, action rises. Later that day, he felt the old crash around afternoon, the moment where his brain usually begged for fast relief. He expected to fail again. Instead, he used a second tool, the 90-second clear, stand up, one deep breath, drink water. Write the next tiny action on a sticky note. Do it immediately. It worked, not because it made him motivated, but because it reduced decision fatigue. Overload isn't beaten by hype. It's beaten by simplification. Alex began to notice a pattern. The days he felt lazy were the days he had too many choices. Too many tabs, too many tasks, too many inputs. Laziness was often decision paralysis. He also realized he had been using guilt as fuel. He thought shame would push him, but shame doesn't push. Shame poisons. It increases load by adding self-hate to an already heavy mind. So he replaced shame with a standard. Small, clear, daily. He didn't need a perfect day. He needed a predictable day. He created another rule. One list only. No sticky notes everywhere. No 5 apps. One list, one place. Because scattered systems create scattered minds. At night, he did a 3-minute review. What did I finish? What is still open? What is the first action tomorrow? He treated closure like hygiene. Within a week, the noise in his head got quieter. Not silent, but quieter. He still had problems, but the problems weren't screaming all at once. He noticed he had more patience, more focus, more calm. Not because he became a new person, but because his mind had fewer background processes running. Alex understood something important. People call it laziness when a person won't move. But sometimes the person can't move because their mind is carrying too many unfinished weights. Overload also makes simple tasks feel emotional. An email feels like judgment. A workout feels like punishment. A phone call feels like conflict. The mind turns everything into a threat. Reducing load turns those threats back into tasks. Not easy, but doable. You stop needing courage for every small action. Then life tested him. A stressful week, more messages, more deadlines, less sleep. The old pattern tried to return. He felt the urge to disappear, to numb, to delay. He recognized it now, not laziness, overload warning. So he did the overload reset again. Inputs off, brain dump, 3 priorities. First action, 20 minutes. He didn't try to win the week. He tried to regain the wheel. That's when Alex learned the real skill isn't working harder. It's recovering faster. Overload will happen. The question is whether you have a reset that brings you back. He also built a boundary with content. No random scrolling before his first focused block, because the first hour sets the mind's noise level for the day. He replaced the morning scroll with a small ritual. Water, light stretch, 2 minutes of planning. Not because it was magical, but because it protected his attention. Alex noticed he started feeling proud again. Not proud like ego, proud like self-respect. The quiet pride of a person who keeps small promises. He stopped saying, "I'm lazy." He started saying, "I'm overloaded." That sentence changed how he treated himself. Not as a failure, but as a system needing adjustment. He learned to spot overload signals early. Racing thoughts, irritation, avoidance, endless switching. If he saw those signs, he reduced inputs and shrank tasks immediately. He also learned to shrink goals into first actions. Overloaded minds hate vague goals. They need clarity you can touch. Open, write, send, walk, clean, pay. He built a practice called the one next move. When he felt stuck, he asked, "What's the next physical action I can do in 60 seconds?" Then he did it before thinking. Over time, his work improved, not because he got more talent, but because he stopped leaking attention. Attention leak is the real reason many people feel behind. He realized most lazy days were actually days he tried to carry too much alone in his head with no structure. The mind was never meant to be a storage unit. He started using tools the way strong people do. Calendars, lists, timers, boundaries. Not to control life perfectly, but to reduce noise so his effort could aim correctly. Alex became kinder to himself, but not softer. He didn't excuse avoidance. He corrected overload. He learned the difference between compassion and permission. Compassion says, "You're human." Reduce the load. Permission says, give up. Alex stopped giving himself permission to spiral and started giving himself strategies to reset. If you feel lazy, ask a better question. How overloaded is my mind? If the answer is high, your next move isn't more pressure. Your next move is less noise. Use this today. Turn off notifications for 4 hours. Dump your thoughts onto paper. Circle 3 priorities. Choose the first action. Set a 20-minute timer. Start. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a smaller plan you can obey. Overload hates obedience because obedience requires clarity, and clarity requires subtraction. Subtract inputs, subtract tasks, subtract choices, and watch what happens. Your mind will breathe. Your body will move. The lazy feeling will weaken. Alex didn't become unstoppable. He became stable. Stable is better. Stable is repeatable. Stable is what builds a life without constant self-hate. He learned to protect his attention like money, because attention is your real currency. Spend it on noise all day, and you'll feel broke at night. He realized the people who look disciplined often aren't stronger. They're lighter. Their systems carry the weight so their minds can execute. So if you've been calling yourself lazy, pause. You might be overloaded, and overload is not a character flaw. It's a signal. Signals can be answered. Reduce the load, build a reset. Make your next move obvious, then repeat. The goal isn't to feel amazing. The goal is to feel clear enough to start. Because once you start, the mind quiets. Once you move, the guilt fades. Once you keep one promise, self-trust returns. And self-trust is the opposite of laziness. Your mind doesn't need more pressure. It needs less noise, fewer open loops, and one clear step you can do right now. Start with one list, one timer, one first action. Then let momentum do what motivation can't, carry you through ordinary days. You're not lazy, you're overloaded. And the moment you treat it like overload, you stop attacking yourself and start building a system that works. The world doesn't change when you feel ready. It changes when you reduce the chaos enough to move, even slowly, even imperfectly, but consistently. Today, choose clarity over chaos. Choose the one next move. Then do it before your mind fills the room with noise again. Every story reshapes your mindset. He kept delaying the one thing that mattered most, and it was never the silly stuff people joke about. It was the meaningful stuff that could actually change his life. He could answer emails fast, clean the house, organize files, help friends, even start small errands the moment they appeared. But the real work stayed untouched. The real work was the project. The conversation, the health, the decision, the thing with consequences. The thing that would force him to become someone new. He called it procrastination, but that word felt too casual. This wasn't laziness. This was avoidance with good manners. This is the story of Daniel, a man who looked productive on the outside and felt stuck on the inside. His calendar was full, but his life wasn't moving. Every morning, Daniel promised he would finally do it. Today I'll start. And every night, he felt that quiet shame again. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. He didn't understand why he could do small things instantly, but delay big things for months. The big things weren't harder. They were just more meaningful. Meaningful work is dangerous to the ego, because if you try, you might fail. And if you fail at something that matters, it feels like you failed as a person. So Daniel stayed safe. He stayed in tasks where failure didn't hurt, where effort didn't expose him, where nobody could judge his potential. He didn't say, "I'm afraid." He said, "I'm busy." Busy is the most socially acceptable hiding place in the world. One Monday, Daniel opened his laptop to begin the project he had been delaying for almost a year. A simple plan, a clear idea, something he cared about deeply. He stared at the blank page, and his brain instantly offered him an alternative. Before you start, just check your inbox. It sounded harmless. It sounded responsible. 5 minutes became 30. 30 became an hour. And when he looked up, his energy was gone. Not because the inbox stole his time, but because it stole his courage. He told himself he would start after lunch. After lunch became after work. After work became tomorrow. Tomorrow became a pattern. That night, Daniel scrolled until his eyes hurt. Not because he enjoyed it, but because scrolling helped him avoid listening to his own regret. The next day, he tried again. Same plan. Same blank page. Same internal resistance. He felt like his mind was a locked door, and he lost the key. He asked himself, why do I keep delaying what matters most? And the answer was uncomfortable, because what matters most is where you can lose. Small tasks feel safe because they end quickly and reward you quickly. Big tasks feel risky because they demand patience and make your identity feel exposed. Daniel kept thinking he needed more motivation. But motivation wasn't the missing piece. Clarity was, and clarity doesn't come from thinking forever. One evening, Daniel met an older coworker for coffee. The coworker was calm, sharp, and strangely consistent. Not flashy, just steady. Daniel confessed, I don't know what's wrong with me. I keep delaying the important things. He expected a lecture. Instead, the coworker asked one question. What do you feel right before you delay? Daniel didn't answer quickly because he didn't want the truth. He sat with it until it surfaced. Pressure, Daniel said. Like if I start, it has to be good. Like it has to prove something. The coworker nodded like he had heard this 1,000 times. He said, you're not delaying the work. You're delaying the feeling the work creates. That sentence hit Daniel harder than any motivational speech. Daniel realized procrastination wasn't about time management. It was emotional management. He wasn't avoiding tasks. He was avoiding discomfort. The coworker continued, what matters most usually carries 3 fears. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of success. Daniel almost laughed at the last one. Fear of success? Daniel asked. The coworker said, yes, because success changes expectations. It changes identity. It demands consistency. Some people would rather stay stuck than become responsible. Daniel went home and replayed his patterns. Every time the work mattered, his mind created noise. Research, planning, organizing, anything that looked like progress without being progress. He started noticing how intelligent his procrastination sounded. I need more information. I should optimize first. I'll do it when I have a full day. But those sentences weren't truth. They were comfort dressed as logic. His brain was protecting him from exposure. Daniel wrote a line in his notebook. I delay because I want safety, not because I lack time. Seeing it on paper made it real. The next morning, he tried a new approach. Instead of asking, how do I finish? He asked, how do I start without fear controlling me? He built a simple tool called the 3-layer delay test. Every time he caught himself delaying, he had to identify which layer was driving it. Layer 1, confusion. If he didn't know the next step, he would delay. Layer 2, perfection. If he wanted it to be great immediately, he would delay. Layer 3, fear. If the outcome mattered, he would delay. Daniel tested it in real time. He opened the project file and felt the resistance. He asked, which layer is this? It was mostly perfection, with fear underneath. So he made a new rule. He wasn't allowed to start with good. He had to start with ugly. Ugly drafts, ugly attempts, ugly beginnings. He called it the ugly first pass. The first version had one job only: exist, not impress, not prove. Just exist. Daniel opened the blank page and typed the worst title he could, and he wrote 3 messy bullet points. His brain wanted to stop him, but the rule was simple. Make it ugly. 10 minutes later, something shifted. The fear was still there, but smaller. Because the moment the work existed, it stopped being a fantasy monster in his head. Daniel realized many delays are caused by starting pressure. You think the first step must carry the weight of the final result. That's why you freeze. He also realized how often he delayed because of identity. If he started, he would become the kind of person who has to follow through. That scared him more than he admitted. So he built another tool, the 10-minute contract. He promised himself 10 minutes daily on the important thing, no matter what, with permission to stop after. 10 minutes is small enough to reduce fear, but real enough to build evidence. And evidence is what the brain believes, not promises. The next day, Daniel did 10 minutes again. It didn't feel exciting. It felt plain. But plain work is what builds a life, not dramatic bursts. On day 3, he almost skipped. He felt tired and told himself he deserved rest. Then he noticed the pattern. Rest was becoming an excuse to avoid exposure again. He did 10 minutes anyway, and the moment he finished, he felt a quiet relief. Not relief from the work, relief from not betraying himself. That relief mattered because self-betrayal is exhausting. It creates background guilt that trains your attention all day. Daniel noticed something else. He was delaying not just the project, but an important conversation he needed to have with his partner about the future. He kept thinking, I'll talk when I have the right words. But the right words never came, because the real problem wasn't words. It was fear of conflict. He applied the 3-layer delay test again. Confusion? No. Perfection? Yes. Fear? Definitely. So he used the ugly first pass rule on the conversation too. He wrote a messy draft of what he needed to say, just to get it out of his head. Not perfect, not poetic, just honest. When the time came, he spoke simply. The conversation wasn't comfortable, but it was real. And real conversations are how relationships grow. Daniel began to understand a painful truth. You delay what matters most because it matters most. The weight of meaning creates fear, and fear creates delay. He also saw the trap of productive procrastination. Cleaning, organizing, researching, prepping. Those things feel good because they give you control without vulnerability. The important work demands vulnerability. It demands that you be a beginner. It demands that you risk looking bad before you get good. Daniel stopped asking, how do I feel motivated? He started asking, how do I lower the emotional cost of starting? That question changed his behavior. He created a rule called the doorway rule. When you feel resistance, don't solve the whole task. Just step through the doorway. The doorway is one physical action you can do in 60 seconds. Open the file. Put on the shoes. Write the first sentence. Send the first message. One move. He noticed something almost funny. The hardest part was often the first 30 seconds. After that, the mind calmed down because action removed uncertainty. That's why delay feels so strong. Delay keeps uncertainty alive. Starting kills uncertainty, even if the work is still hard. Over the next week, Daniel built a chain. 10 minutes daily. Ugly first pass. Doorway rule. He wasn't finishing everything, but he was finally moving. Then life tested him. A stressful week at work. Low sleep. More pressure. The old version of Daniel would have disappeared and told himself he'd restart later. This time, he protected one thing, the 10 minutes. Because consistency is not about having perfect weeks. It's about returning quickly when weeks get messy. He did 10 minutes on the worst day. It was sloppy, it was tired, it was enough. And that was the first time Daniel felt control without excitement. He realized the reason he kept delaying wasn't lack of discipline. It was lack of a system for fear. His old plan depended on mood. His new plan depended on rules. Daniel also discovered a deeper reason. Delaying what matters most keeps your self-image safe. If you never fully try, you never fully risked being wrong. But that safety has a cost. The cost is regret. And regret is heavier than effort when carried for years. One night, Daniel looked at his calendar and saw 7 days in a row of showing up. Not huge sessions, just 10 minutes. And he felt something stronger than motivation. He felt self-trust, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need hype because it's based on evidence. Evidence that he can keep a small promise. He wrote a final tool to protect himself from future delay. He called it the 2-choice frame. Every time he delays, he asks, "Am I choosing comfort now or progress later?" The question isn't meant to shame him. It's meant to clarify the trade. Because delay is a trade, and most people pretend it's not. Daniel learned to treat meaning like a compass. If something matters, it will feel heavier. That heaviness isn't a sign to wait. It's a sign to shrink the start. Shrink the start until it becomes impossible to avoid. Then repeat. That's how you turn meaningful goals into daily behavior. If you're delaying what matters most, don't call yourself lazy. Ask the real questions. What feeling am I avoiding? Which layer is driving this delay? If it's confusion, define the next physical action. If it's perfection, use the ugly first pass. If it's fear, use the 10-minute contract and prove you can start anyway. Then protect your chain with one rule. Never let one missed day become 2. Delay loves streak breaks because breaks create identity collapse. Keep your system simple. One list, one priority, one timer, one doorway action. Your mind doesn't need more pressure. It needs less complexity. Daniel didn't become fearless. He became consistent. He learned that fear doesn't disappear before action. Fear fades after action begins. He finally understood the cruel trick. The important things never feel urgent the way small tasks do. They feel heavy, and heaviness is easy to postpone. But the important things compound. Health, relationships, skills, savings, purpose. If you delay them, the cost grows quietly until it becomes pain. Daniel stopped waiting for the perfect time. He started creating time. 10 minutes daily, ugly drafts, doorway steps. That was enough to break the spell. He learned to respect small starts. Small starts don't look impressive, but they are honest. And honesty is what builds a life you don't need to escape from. If you want the practical reset today, do this now. Choose the one thing you keep delaying. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Make the first version ugly. Step through the doorway. Then write one sentence at night. I showed up. Because the goal isn't to finish everything today. The goal is to stop disappearing from your own life. You delay what matters most because it threatens your comfort and your identity. But the life you want sits on the other side of that threat. Cross the line daily. Not with intensity, with consistency. Not with perfect plans, with small rules you can obey. Daniel didn't find a secret hack. He found a truth. The moment you stop managing your emotions with delay, you start managing your life with action. Meaning will always feel heavy. That's how you know it matters. Your job is not to wait until it feels light. Your job is to carry it in small pieces every day. Because the things that matter most don't get done by someday. They get done by today, repeated, boring, quiet, and real. Every story reshapes your mindset. He wanted change so badly it hurt, but every time he tried to start, something invisible pulled him back into the same life. Not the big obvious things like laziness or lack of knowledge. It was quieter than that. It was a mental trap that felt like logic. He would sit there, staring at the first step, feeling the weight of everything he hadn't done yet, and his brain would whisper, "Not now." The whisper didn't sound like fear. It sounded like planning. It sounded like being responsible. It sounded like waiting for the right moment. This is the story of Jason, a man who didn't lack desire. He lacked permission, not from other people. From his own mind, Jason had goals that mattered. Get healthier, build a skill, create something of his own, fix his finances, stop feeling like his days were slipping away. He watched videos, saved advice, wrote notes, bought notebooks, made lists. His mind was full of strategies. His life was still the same. And every time he failed to start, he blamed his character. He told himself he was weak, undisciplined, broken in some way. But Jason wasn't broken. He was overloaded by one dangerous belief. He thought he had to feel ready before he could act. Readiness, for him, meant confidence, clarity, energy. A perfect state of mind where doubt would disappear and effort would feel easy. The problem was simple. That state of mind never arrived, and if it did arrive, it didn't stay long enough to build anything real. Jason's brain kept treating starting like a threat, because starting meant commitment, and commitment meant exposure. Exposure to failure, exposure to judgment, exposure to the possibility that he might try hard and still not become the person he imagined. So his mind protected him, not with panic, with delay. Delay was his brain's way of keeping him safe from proof. Proof is scary because proof is honest. Proof can show you your real level. Proof can remove excuses. Proof can force you to grow. Jason didn't fear work. He feared the moment work would reveal him. One morning, he woke up early with that rare energy people call a fresh start. He sat at his desk and opened a blank document. The blank page felt like a mirror. It reflected every dream he had and every time he avoided it. And in that reflection, he felt pressure. His mind said, if you start, it has to be good. It said, if you start, you can't stop. It said, if you start, you might fail. Then his mind offered him a deal. Just plan a little more. Planning sounded smart, so he accepted, and the day quietly slipped away. That night, Jason felt the familiar pain. A day used up, a goal untouched, and a tired mind pretending tomorrow would be different. The next day, the cycle repeated. He wanted change, but he couldn't start, and the more he delayed, the heavier starting became, because delay adds weight. Every delayed day becomes another piece of evidence that starting is hard, and your brain learns from evidence. Jason didn't realize he was training himself to hesitate. Every time he delayed, he taught his mind that avoidance is a normal response to discomfort. The mental trap was not that he didn't know what to do. The trap was that he treated discomfort as danger. Most people do. When discomfort shows up, they assume something is wrong. They assume they chose the wrong goal, the wrong time, the wrong method. But discomfort is often a sign you're close to the real work, the work that matters enough to challenge your identity. Jason worked a normal job, and he was good at it. He could handle stress, deadlines, responsibility. He could show up for everyone else. But when it came to himself, he became fragile. Not because he didn't care, but because self-change is personal. When your goal is personal, failure doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a verdict. That's why Jason avoided starting. Avoiding protected his self-image. If he never fully tried, he never fully risked being wrong. The problem was the cost. That protection came with regret, and regret is heavier than effort when carried for years. One evening, Jason met an old friend who seemed calmer than before. Not louder, not more exciting, just steady. Jason said, I want to change. I really do. But I can't start. He expected motivation. He expected a speech. His friend didn't give him hype. He asked him one question. What do you feel right before you avoid? Jason tried to answer quickly, but the real answer took time. He sat with it until it surfaced. Pressure, he said, like it has to be perfect. His friend nodded and said, that's the trap. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling the task creates. That sentence hit Jason hard because it explained everything. Procrastination wasn't time management. It was emotional management. Jason went home and watched himself more closely, not with shame, with curiosity. He started to notice the moment the trap appeared. The trap always appeared at the doorway. The first step, the opening of the document, the first workout, the first message, the beginning. Because beginnings are where the mind creates stories. What if I fail? What if I waste time? What if I'm not good enough? What if this changes my life? Those stories feel like protection, but they are prisons. They keep you thinking so you don't have to move. Jason realized he was trying to start at level 10. He wanted to begin with a perfect system, a perfect routine, a perfect plan. But perfection is not ambition. Perfection is fear pretending to be standards. He wrote a rule in his notebook. I don't start with perfect. I start with ugly. The rule felt insulting to his pride, which meant it was probably correct. He named it the ugly first step. The first version's job was not to impress. Its job was to exist. The next morning, he opened the document and wrote the worst title he could. He typed 3 messy bullet points. No structure, no beauty, just movement. His mind tried to stop him, but the rule was stronger than the feeling. Ugly first, he repeated, and he kept going. 10 minutes later, the pressure decreased. Not because he became confident, but because the monster became smaller once it was on the page. Jason learned a powerful truth. The mind exaggerates tasks when they are imaginary. Action makes them real, and real is easier to handle than fantasy. He then built a second tool to escape the trap on bad days. He called it the 10-minute contract. The contract was simple. 10 minutes only. Work on the goal for 10 minutes, with permission to stop after. The goal wasn't to finish. The goal was to start daily. 10 minutes felt almost too small to matter. That's why it worked. Small lowers fear. Small reduces the ego threat. Small makes the doorway easier to cross. The first day, he did 10 minutes and stopped. He didn't judge it. He just marked it on a calendar with an X. The second day, he did 10 minutes again. The trap showed up, but now he had a rule. Rules are important because feelings are negotiators. By day 4, the trap was still there, but quieter. Like a door alarm that stops screaming when it learns you're going to walk through anyway. Jason started noticing another truth. He wasn't failing because he lacked willpower. He was failing because he had too many decisions. Every morning he would ask, "What should I do?" And the number of options would overwhelm him. Overwhelm looks like laziness, but it's actually overload. So he created the 1-lane list. 1 goal for the season, 1 daily action, 1 minimum. That's it. He stopped trying to change everything at once. Because when you try to change everything, your brain feels attacked and defends the old life harder. One morning, he felt tired and told himself, "Today doesn't count." That was the old voice returning with a new disguise. Jason answered with a new rule. Bad days count more, because bad days are where identity is built. Good days are easy. Bad days reveal who you are. He did his 10 minutes on a bad day. It was sloppy. It was slow. It was enough. And for the first time, he felt control without excitement. He realized starting is a skill, and he had never trained it. He had trained dreaming, planning, and restarting, but not starting. Most people think the hardest part is finishing. For Jason, the hardest part was beginning without guarantee. And that's what the mental trap steals from you. It steals your ability to begin imperfectly. It convinces you that imperfect beginnings are failures. Jason began to respect imperfect beginnings, because every great thing is built from bad first attempts. He also learned to stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "What is the next physical action?" Physical actions are powerful because they bypass the mind's courtroom. The mind can debate goals forever, But it can't debate open the file, so he built the 60-second doorway. When he felt resistance, he had to do one physical action within 60 seconds. Open the document, put on the shoes, write one sentence, send one message. The rule was movement before meaning. Meaning is important, but meaning can become pressure. Movement reduces pressure. Movement creates proof. Proof became his new fuel. Not motivation. Proof. Proof that he can show up even when he doesn't feel ready. Jason noticed something strange after 2 weeks. He felt calmer. Not because life got easier, but because he stopped carrying the guilt of avoidance all day. Avoidance creates background noise. Your mind whispers, "You should be doing it." Starting quiets that whisper because action ends the argument. Then life tested him. A stressful week, less sleep, more problems. The perfect time for the mental trap to win again. The old Jason would have disappeared and promised himself he'd restart later. This time, he protected one thing. The minimum. 10 minutes. Ugly first step. One lane list, one doorway action. That was his system, and systems survive chaos. He learned that the goal is not to feel confident. The goal is to be consistent. Confidence is a receipt. You get it after you pay with repetition. Jason also stopped romanticizing change. Change is not one big decision. Change is 1,000 small decisions that look boring in the moment. The mental trap tries to make you think you need a massive breakthrough to begin. In reality, you need a smaller start you can repeat. If you want to escape the trap, don't ask for more motivation. Ask for less pressure. Shrink the start until your fear has nothing to argue with. Use the ugly first step. The first version's only job is to exist. Use the 10-minute contract. 10 minutes daily, no matter what. Use the 60-second doorway. One physical action before your brain negotiates. Jason didn't become a new man because he finally felt ready. He became a new man because he stopped obeying the mental trap that told him to wait. Every story reshapes your mindset. The fear that kept him stuck didn't feel like fear. It didn't feel like panic, weakness, or anxiety. It felt like being careful, like waiting, like not rushing into the wrong thing. He told himself he was just thinking it through, just being responsible, just protecting his future. But deep down, something was holding the brakes while his mind kept pretending the engine was the problem. This is the story of Ethan, a man who wasn't lazy, wasn't clueless, wasn't hopeless. He was trapped by an invisible fear that hid behind reasonable words. Ethan had goals that mattered. Not shallow goals, not vanity goals, but life goals. Better health, a better career, a stronger mind, a life that felt like it belonged to him. He even had moments of clarity where he could see the path. He would feel the urge to change, open a notebook, write a plan, and imagine the version of himself who finally stopped delaying. Then the moment came to act, and his body would slow down. Not dramatically, just subtly. He would check one more thing, wait one more day, adjust one more detail, and the momentum would disappear. He didn't call it fear. He called it timing. Timing sounds intelligent. Timing sounds mature. Timing sounds like a strategy instead of a surrender. Ethan's days were filled with small wins that kept him feeling productive. Emails, chores, quick tasks, tiny errands. But the one big thing that could actually change his life stayed untouched. At night, he felt the quiet pressure of unfinished potential. Not loud regret, just a steady heaviness that made rest feel incomplete, like his mind was still holding something it refused to face. He kept asking himself, why can't I just start? And the answer was confusing because he wanted it. He wasn't avoiding because he didn't care. He was avoiding because he cared too much. When something matters, it becomes personal. And when it becomes personal, The stakes in your mind become larger than reality. The task becomes a verdict on your identity. Ethan started noticing a pattern. If the task was meaningful, he hesitated. If the task was safe, he moved fast. The same man who could solve problems quickly would freeze at a blank page. The blank page was never just a blank page. It was a mirror. It reflected his dreams, his standards, and the possibility that his effort might not match his expectations. That's what invisible fear does. It doesn't scream, "Don't do it." It whispers, "Do it later, when you can do it right." And it feels like wisdom because it protects you from embarrassment. Ethan didn't fear work. He feared proof. Proof is honest. Proof removes excuses. Proof shows you your real level. And your real level might not match the story you tell yourself. So he stayed in planning. Planning feels like progress without risk. Planning lets you feel close to change while avoiding the moment that change demands a cost. He watched motivational videos like a person drinking salt water. It felt like relief for a moment, then it made him thirstier. He kept consuming clarity instead of practicing it. One morning, Ethan woke up early, determined to finally begin. He made coffee, sat down, opened the file, and felt a sudden tightness in his chest that didn't make sense. The task was simple. The first step was clear. Yet his mind started negotiating. Check one message. Fix the workspace. Do more research. Start when you can focus fully. He obeyed the negotiation because it felt harmless. But harmless delays stack into a lifestyle, and his life had become a museum of almost started. That day, he noticed something important. The more important the task, the more his brain demanded perfect conditions. But perfect conditions are rare, and waiting for them is a silent way to quit. Ethan began to realize the fear wasn't of the task itself. The fear was of the feeling the task created: pressure, uncertainty, vulnerability, the possibility of looking foolish before getting good. He thought fear had to feel like terror. He didn't know fear can feel like hesitation. It can feel like not today. It can feel like a gentle voice that says, "Let's avoid discomfort for now." That's why it's invisible. It doesn't attack you. It protects you. It protects your ego, your image, your sense of competence, your story that you are capable, even if you haven't proved it yet. Ethan carried a quiet belief he never said out loud. If I try and fail, it means I'm not who I think I am. That belief turned every meaningful attempt into a risk to identity. Most people don't fear failing. They fear what failing would mean. They fear the label. They fear the shame. They fear the moment their fantasy self meets reality. That's why people prefer comfort. Comfort keeps fantasy alive. Comfort lets you believe you could be great someday, because you never put yourself in a position where you must face the truth. Ethan had built a life around avoiding that collision. He stayed busy. He stayed distracted. He stayed preparing, and the fear stayed invisible because his habits supported it. One evening, he met a friend who had changed noticeably over the last year, not in a dramatic social media way, in a calm, steady way that looked like self-respect. Ethan asked, "How did you do it?" Expecting a trick. The friend said, "I stopped listening to the fear that sounded reasonable." Ethan laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. The friend explained, "There's a fear that shouts, and there's a fear that whispers. The whisper fear is the dangerous one because it hides inside logic." Ethan asked what it sounded like. The friend said, "It sounds like I'll start when I'm ready. It sounds like I need more information. It sounds like I don't want to waste time." Ethan felt exposed because those sentences were his daily language. He had been living inside the whisper fear and calling it discipline, intelligence, and patience. On the way home, Ethan made a decision. He would stop naming himself lazy. He would stop blaming his character. He would treat the problem like what it was: fear management. That night, he created a tool. He called it the invisible fear check. Every time he felt resistance, he had to ask one question. What am I protecting right now? Protecting time? Maybe. Protecting energy? Possibly. But most of the time, he was protecting his ego from being seen as a beginner. He was protecting his identity from discomfort. The next day, he tried the check in real time. He sat down to start, felt the urge to delay, and asked, "What am I protecting?" The answer came fast. My image. He wanted to start at level 10. He wanted the first attempt to look like mastery. He wanted to skip the awkward stage where you are clumsy and uncertain and slow. But the awkward stage is not optional. The awkward stage is the price. Everyone pays it. The only difference is some people pay it early, and others keep paying it forever by never starting. Ethan wrote a sentence on paper. Beginners don't look good. They look consistent. It was a reminder that the goal isn't to look talented. The goal is to become trained. Then he built the second tool, the 10-minute entry. 10 minutes only, with permission to stop when the timer ends. His only mission was to cross the line into action. He chose one goal he had avoided for months, building a skill that could change his career. Not because it was easy, but because it was meaningful, and meaning was where his fear lived. He set a timer. The moment he began, his mind screamed quietly, "This isn't enough. You're doing it wrong. You should have a better plan." He kept going anyway. 10 minutes passed. He didn't feel transformed. He felt something smaller and more important. Relief. Relief from not betraying himself for one more day. He marked an X on a calendar. It felt childish. Then he realized childish is better than invisible. Childish rules can be obeyed. Invisible fear cannot be debated. On day 2, the fear returned with a new mask. You're tired. You should rest. Start when you can do a full session. Ethan recognized the pattern. The fear always wants perfection. He used another rule to break it, the minimum standard. His minimum was so small, it couldn't be negotiated. 10 minutes. That was the floor. Anything above it was a bonus. This mattered because fear thrives in negotiation. If you negotiate with your mind will negotiate in favor of comfort. Comfort has better arguments than progress. By day 4, Ethan noticed the fear didn't disappear. It just became less persuasive. It lost power because his actions created evidence that he could move without confidence. Evidence changes a brain. Promises don't. Plans don't. Motivation doesn't. Evidence does. Your mind believes what you repeatedly do, not what you repeatedly hope. Ethan realized his life had been shaped by a simple habit. He obeyed discomfort. Whenever discomfort showed up, he treated it like a stop sign instead of a sign of growth. He decided to flip the meaning. Discomfort would now mean, this matters. It would mean, this is where the work is. It would mean, this is the doorway. He created a third tool, the 60-second doorway. When he felt resistance, he had to do one physical action within 60 seconds before his brain built a courtroom. Open the file, put on the shoes, write the title, send the message. One move, because movement breaks spells. Movement turns imaginary fear into manageable reality. Ethan started applying this to everything: health, finance, conversations. He stopped waiting for the perfect words and started speaking simply. He stopped waiting for the perfect mood and started moving lightly. He learned that invisible fear loves later. Later is where the mind feels safe. Later is where failure cannot happen because nothing is attempted. Later is where dreams go to sleep. The truth was painful. Every time Ethan chose later, he chose a version of himself who remains unchanged. He wasn't choosing rest. He was choosing delay. He began to understand the real cost. Not the cost of effort, but the cost of carry. Carrying an unfinished life creates constant background stress that drains energy quietly. That's why avoidance feels exhausting. You think you're saving energy by delaying, but you are spending energy on guilt, on mental noise, on the constant whisper of, "You should." Ethan noticed his mind felt lighter when he acted, even a little. Action didn't just move the task forward. It removed weight from his identity, because he stopped seeing himself as someone who disappears. 2 weeks in, Ethan still didn't feel ready, but he was moving more than he had in months. He saw the truth. Readiness is not a prerequisite. Readiness is a result. He stopped chasing confidence. Confidence is a receipt. You receive it after you pay with repetition. Fear tries to trick you into demanding the receipt before payment. Ethan also learned another hidden fear, fear of success. Success changes expectations. It changes identity. It demands maintenance. Some people delay because change would force them to become responsible. That fear is invisible too. It whispers, "Don't rush." It whispers, "Be careful." It whispers, "You don't need this." But underneath, it means if you change, you can't go back. Ethan didn't want to admit it, but part of him liked the safety of his current life. It was uncomfortable, but familiar. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar progress. So he built a fourth tool, the two-choice frame. Whenever he felt resistance, he asked, "Am I choosing comfort now or progress later?" He didn't judge. He clarified. Clarification is powerful because invisible fear depends on confusion. It wants your choices to feel blurry so you can slide into comfort without owning the decision. Ethan started owning the trade. If he chose comfort, he said it out loud. That honesty alone reduced the fear's power, because fear hates being seen. Then life tested him. A stressful week, poor sleep, too many messages. The exact season where old Ethan would disappear and promise himself he'd restart later. The fear returned stronger. It whispered, "This week doesn't count." Ethan smiled because he recognized it. He answered with a standard. Minimum still counts. He did 10 minutes on his worst day. It was sloppy. It was slow. It was enough. And that day taught him the real skill, recovery speed. The people who win long-term are not the ones who never slip. They're the ones who return quickly. Invisible fear tries to turn one slip into an identity collapse. Ethan protected himself with a simple rule. Never miss twice. One miss is an event. 2 misses become a pattern. Patterns become identity, and identity becomes fate. As the weeks passed, Ethan began to feel a quiet change. Not a motivational high, something deeper, self-trust. The trust that he can feel resistance and still move. That's what invisible fear steals from you. It steals self-trust. It trains you to doubt your own words because you promise and disappear, until you stop believing yourself. Ethan started believing himself again, not because he said nicer things, but because his calendar showed proof. Proof is the language the brain respects. If you feel stuck, don't only ask, "What should I do?" Ask the more honest question, "What am I protecting?" If the answer is your ego, your image, your comfort, then you've found the invisible fear. Then don't fight it with motivation. Fight it with a system, a minimum standard, a timer, a doorway action, something small you can obey even when your feelings are loud. Use the invisible fear check. What am I protecting right now? Name it. Use the 10-minute entry. Start small. Use the 60-second doorway. Move before you think. Use the two-choice frame. Choose deliberately. Remember this. Fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like planning. Sometimes it looks like patience. Sometimes it looks like intelligence. But if it keeps you stuck, it's still fear. The goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to become someone who moves while afraid. Because action doesn't require courage. It creates courage. Every time you start, you teach your brain that discomfort is survivable. Every time you delay, you teach your brain that discomfort is dangerous. You are training something either way. Ethan didn't escape the trap by finding the perfect plan. He escaped by building a smaller start he could repeat, especially on ordinary days, especially when nothing felt exciting. He learned to respect boring progress. Boring progress compounds. Dramatic progress spikes. Spikes make good stories. Compounding builds real lives. If you want change, stop waiting for the fear to leave. The fear might never leave, but you can leave the fear behind by taking one step while it's still talking. Start with 10 minutes. Start with one sentence. Start with one walk. Start with one message. The first step doesn't need to be impressive. It needs to be real. Because once the step is real, the fear becomes smaller. The mind stops treating the task like a monster and starts treating it like a process. And processes can be handled. You are not stuck because you lack potential. You are stuck because invisible fear has been choosing for you, quietly, politely, with reasonable excuses that hide a simple truth. You don't need a new personality. You need a new rule. A rule that forces movement before your mind can protect you from growth again. Every story reshapes your mindset. Starting felt harder than continuing, and he couldn't explain it. Once he was in motion, he could work for hours. But the beginning felt like lifting a wall. He thought he lacked discipline. He thought he lacked willpower. He thought he was broken. But the truth was simpler. Starting is a different skill than continuing. Continuing uses momentum. Starting creates it. Continuing is riding a moving bike. Starting is pushing it uphill until the wheels finally turn. This is the story of Chris, a man who could be consistent once he began, but kept losing his life at the doorway of the first step. Chris didn't struggle with effort. He struggled with initiation, the moment before action, the moment where you're still you, and the habit is still imaginary. He would wake up with a plan, even a good plan, and still delay. Not because he didn't care, but because the mind hates transitions. A transition means leaving comfort and entering uncertainty. It means switching states, from rest to work, from easy to effort, from scrolling to focus, from thinking to doing. That state switch is where most people collapse, because the brain prefers the current state, even if it's painful. The brain loves already happening. Chris noticed something weird. If he accidentally started, like opening the file or putting on his shoes, he would keep going. But if he paused to prepare, he would disappear. Preparation felt safe. Preparation felt productive. But often, preparation was just delay wearing a suit. He didn't need more preparation. He needed a bridge from intention to action. A simple ritual that made starting automatic. Chris's mornings were a battlefield of small choices. Get up or snooze. Shower now or later. Check messages or not. Each choice looked small, but together they drained his decision battery. By the time he reached the task, he had already spent energy deciding. Starting felt heavy because his brain was already tired. That's the first reason starting feels harder. Decision fatigue. You don't begin fresh. You begin after dozens of tiny negotiations. The second reason was emotional friction. Starting forces you to face the gap between where you are and where you want to be. That gap feels like judgment. Continuing doesn't show you the gap. It just shows you the next rep, the next page, the next minute. Starting shows you the whole mountain at once. The third reason was identity friction. Starting means becoming someone who follows through. That sounds good, but it also means you can't hide behind potential anymore. Potential is a comfortable story. You can believe you could be great someday. Starting demands proof, and proof can be uncomfortable. Chris didn't realize he was protecting his self-image by delaying. If he never truly started, he never truly risked being mad. He stayed capable in theory. One Monday, Chris decided to finally fix his routine. He made a strong plan. Wake early, train, work, read, plan the next day. It was perfect. The plan lasted half a day, not because it was hard, but because it required too many starts. Start waking. Start training. Start working. Start reading. Start planning. Each start was a separate battle. Chris was fighting 5 doorways a day. No wonder he felt exhausted. That night, he sat at his desk and wrote a simple question. Why can I continue, but not start? The answer came when he watched his own behavior. He could start scrolling easily because there was no friction. The phone was right there. The reward was instant. The effort was zero. But starting deep work required friction. Sit down, open the file, face the blank page, feel the resistance. Delay offered immediate relief. Chris realized starting is hard because it is the only moment you can still choose comfort. Once you begin, comfort loses its grip. So the real fight wasn't the habit. The real fight was the first 60 seconds. Chris met an older trainer at the gym who had a calm intensity. Not loud, not motivational, just consistent, like a clock. Chris asked him, "How do you always start?" The trainer didn't say, "Be disciplined." He said, "I don't start. I enter." Chris didn't understand. The trainer explained, "Starting is a decision. Entry is a procedure. Procedures remove debate." That line stayed in Chris's head all week. Starting as a decision made it emotional. Entry as a procedure made it mechanical. Chris built a tool he called the 60-second entry. It had one purpose: remove choice from the first minute. The rule was simple. When it's time, you do 3 actions, no thinking. Action 1, stand up. Action 2, move to the location. Action 3, touch the tool. Touch the tool means open the laptop. Hold the pen. Put on the shoes. Grab the water bottle. The tool makes the habit real. Chris tested it the next morning. He didn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" He stood up. He walked to the desk. He opened the laptop. The resistance didn't disappear, but it weakened. Because the mind argues in thoughts, but the body argues in movement. Movement wins. He then added a second tool, the 2-minute ignition. For the first 2 minutes, the only goal is to stay with the task. Not to be good, not to be fast, not to be inspired, just to stay. 2 minutes is short enough to be possible and long enough to start momentum. Chris noticed something immediate. The first 2 minutes were uncomfortable, like cold water. But after 2 minutes, the task felt normal. That's the truth about starts. Discomfort is front-loaded. The pain of beginning is concentrated in the first moments. That's why continuing feels easier. Once you pass the doorway, the nervous system adjusts. The brain stops panicking and starts performing. Chris began using the entry rule for everything. Gym, stand up, shoes on, out the door. Work, sit down, open file, write first sentence. Cleaning, pick up one item, then another. Each time he crossed the doorway, he earned a small win, identity proof. I'm the kind of person who enters, even when I don't feel like it. That proof mattered more than motivation, because motivation is a feeling. Proof is a fact. Facts build confidence quietly. Chris also learned to reduce the number of starts. Instead of 5 habits scattered across the day, he grouped them into blocks. Because every new block is a new start. The more starts you require, the more chances you give your mind to negotiate. He created a simple schedule: 1 morning entry block, 1 work block, 1 evening reset. Fewer doorways, less negotiation, more consistency. After a week, he noticed he was less anxious. Starting used to feel like a threat. Now starting felt like a routine procedure. He realized he had been waiting for a feeling that would make starting easy. But starting doesn't become easy through feelings. It becomes easy through repetition. The entry procedure became a habit by itself. A habit that triggers other habits. A gateway habit. Chris also learned why big goals increase resistance. Big goals make the start feel heavy because you imagine the whole journey. So he changed his focus. Instead of thinking about the goal, he thought about the entry. Not write a book, just open the document. Not get fit, just tie the shoes. Not change your life, just start the timer. This shift was powerful because it shrank the emotional load. The mind can fight a big dream. It can't fight a small procedure as easily. One day, Chris had a bad morning. Poor sleep, stress, irritation. He felt that old urge to skip. Then he remembered the rule. Bad days still require entry. Because entry is identity protection. It keeps the chain alive. He did the 60-second entry and the 2-minute ignition. He did it badly. He did it tired. He did it anyway. After he finished, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Self-respect. Not because he did a perfect session, but because he didn't disappear. That's the hidden reward of starting. Starting is where self-trust is built. Continuing is where results are built. If you can master the doorway, you can master your life. Because every habit, every goal, every change begins at the same place, the first minute. Chris stopped treating starts like emotional battles and started treating them like entries. Procedures, not decisions. Here's the practical system you can use today. The 60-second entry plus the 2-minute ignition. Step 1. Choose the time. When the time hits, do the 3 actions without thinking. Stand up, move to the location, touch the tool. Step 2. Start a timer for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, you only have one mission. Stay with the task. If you want to stop after 2 minutes, you can. But most days, you won't, because momentum has already started. Step 3. Reduce your starts. Group habits into blocks. Fewer doorways. Less negotiation. More consistency. Remember, starting feels harder because it is. It requires ignition. Continuing is powered by momentum. Don't shame yourself for struggling with starts. Build a system that makes starting automatic. Stop asking for motivation. Build procedures. Procedures remove debate. And when debate disappears, action becomes normal. Chris didn't become a superhero. He became a man who enters. And that small identity shift changed everything. Your life is not changed by one giant decision. It's changed by hundreds of small entries into the work you keep avoiding. So when the time comes today, don't negotiate. Stand up, move, touch the tool, start 2 minutes, cross the doorway, let momentum take over. Then keep going while it's easier, because that's the point. Every story reshapes your mindset.